your trusted source for information on the energy transition. This is the Insider's Guide to Energy podcast. Hey, Energy Insiders, welcome back to the Insider's Guide to Energy. I'm your host, Chris Sass, and this is another episode of the Insider's Guide to Energy. What an exciting week we have. We're going to talk to Aiden Lee, the co-founder and CEO of Graphjet. And what they're doing is kind of interesting. They're taking palm kernels and turning that into graphite. Graphite, as we all know, is one of the components needed in battery technology and nanotechnology. So he takes one man's trash and he turns it into treasure. Aiden, welcome to the program.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Yeah, I think you kickstart such a good way. One man trash, one man one way solar variables item for the industry. Yeah, I'm Aiden Lee here. I'm CEO. I'm a co-founder of Graphjet Technology. Yes, we are just recently listed on the NASDAQ with a business model of transferring and recycling the waste from Malaysia to become a valuable products that widely used in electrical vehicles. Thank you, Chris.
It's a pleasure to have you here, and it's an interesting concept. So with the energy transition, EVs and electrifying everything, there's no one silver bullet that solves all problems. But one of the things that comes up is supply chain and where we're going to get all the materials. And one of the materials that you need in battery tech is graphite. And so, as your company name suggests, you're in the graphite business. Maybe you could take a second and explain to our audience what it is that you propose to do and what you are doing.
Yeah, basically, Graphjet is recycling the waste. We call it a palm kernel shell. It's such a waste that very rich in Malaysia, second largest palm oil producer, come after Indonesia. And Malaysia has a lot of, we're talking about 5 million tons every year on the palm kernel shell waste. So basically, we transform the waste to become a value-added product. We call it graphite. Graphite actually is such a important raw materials and call it the critical raw material as well as for now. And because it rank above lithium, it's much more important than lithium because graphite is mainly used in the battery anode material, which is a storage system in the battery, which is a negative side of we always seen in the battery. And it is very important, and some of the country have actually dominate this raw material for 97% since EV has been out of the market and all the competition. So graphite is our main raw material right now, our output, which we are focusing on manufacturing graphite from the waste and supplying to all the OEM automakers and supporting the supply chain to create a better ecosystem.
All right. So you have these palm kernels and the shells or the husks. They're basically disposed of today. And they have a lot of nutrients and a lot of things in there. And you got to be careful of how you dispose of them from what I'm reading. You can't just get rid of these. And so your
Yep.
premise is you worked with a couple of universities in Malaysia and developed some technology where you could take this and basically turn it into a usable material, which is basically extracting that and turning it into graphite. Is that the highest level of what's happening here?
Yep. In terms of researching and the whole process development wise, internal technology, Graphjet actually invented the whole process and technology ourselves. And we're working with all the university in Malaysia to run all the tests, run all the verification, all the testimonials with all the few experts and scientists outside Graphjet Technology, basically just to verify the raw materials and to run the test how good the product is, how solid graphite, the composition is to mainly use in the batteries or any other application in the industry.
All right. And you're competing with open mining, or what's the general way that graphite is gathered today? How does the battery industry get its graphite today?
Yeah, thank you, Chris. You asked a really good question. In terms of open mining side, we don't really mine graphite. Of course, there's different sources of getting the graphite in the whole supply chain. The first one you can mine from natural resources, inconsistent chances of polluted, on the impurity of the graphite. The risk is there for natural mine. And the second source of getting the graphite out is that you're going to produce from a petrol coke or charcoal. which is the coal. Both are commodities, very expensive, fluctuating in the industry, and that's why it makes graphite is such expensive and such valuables, and of course very difficult to get it. And Graphjet made another way which we use waste to convert it to become a graphite. That's a value.
All right. And now, when we initially spoke, it was around the time I think we were talking about Nevada, and your company is making a play to supply the North American battery market. Explain a little bit of what you're doing and why that makes sense.
Yeah, basically, we try to expand ourselves in North America, and we take this as a big opportunity for the company because last year December's actually China has limits and banned the export of graphite to any other country, including North America, including Asia country, Japan, Korea, and most of the country are panicking where to source the graphite, when China is the biggest suppliers conquering the whole market. And we thought that Graphjet being the one of the sources, one of the biggest opportunity for us to be in North America, and the first and the only one able to convert the waste to become a graphite. And we are the first one also in production by end of June this year in Malaysia. And if you talk about Nevada, I know that's our big opportunity. We want to expand ourselves in North America. We are listed on the NASDAQ, and we try to contribute ourselves, put ourselves on radar, which as much as of our automakers or OEM battery makers, you do not need to go out to China, you need to get out of North America. You could source it in North America. That's what we try to position ourselves is.
Okay, so you're saying source it in North America, and I think the devil's in the detail. Your kernels come from Malaysia. That's where the source of the palm oil kernel is. You do some sort of
Yep.
pre-processing and then ship stuff to Nevada? Is that how this works?
Yeah, basically how we process the whole manufacturing process is that because palm kernel shell is not allowed to export or import to any other big country, any other country. So the challenge is that how are we going to process and produce in Nevada where we can't import the feedstock from Malaysia going to the United States? And the way they're going to do it is that we're going to run a free first process, refine the first process from palm kernel shell to become a hard carbons, and we then will ship the hard carbons to United States, which is Nevada facility, to rerun the process and refine it to become a graphite and graphene. So that's the way that we do it, and yeah,
So when I look at, let's say, scope three emissions from this process or something where you have a long process, so you're basically farming palm oil, which has consequences and there's growth in palm oil, right? So that may contribute to deforestation. Then we take that waste that's come from the palm oil and we're transforming it into something, and then we're shipping it across the world to make a product. Help me understand how this compares in emissions and scope three emissions to maybe other forms of getting graphite. You'd said from coal or from hydrocarbons or things like that. How does this compare?
yeah. If you're talking about our carbon emissions, we are totally definitely better. I mean, we're able to lower down our objective, which is to emit as low as compared to any other producer in the world. We are talking about every kilogram of 2.95 emission from Graphjet. If you're talking about mining, we're talking about 17 kilogram. We're talking about production scale from coal and petro coal in China. We're talking about 10 or 15 kilogram per kilogram production of graphite. And we're talking about Graphjet is only running at 2.9 and per kilograms of graphite production. And we are still working towards our targets to neutralize, the carbon emission by getting more renewable energy to power up the whole power plant. The whole manufacturing plant.
And the markets you're focused on, you started your, like you said, in June, your first production or goes takes place locally. And is your second market the US then? Is that your growth plan?
Yeah, definitely. The first manufacturing plant, the mid-sized manufacturing plant, will be launching end of June this year in Malaysia, and after that, we're going to focus on the expansion in North America, talking to federal government, state government, and getting the supports in terms of licensing and all that. And that's our second plan to grow our business in North America. And of course, not just North America, in Europe, in Southeast Asia, we also, put our feet in to talk to a few conglomerates, local government linked company to form a relationship, strategist partnership to see how fast we could scale ourselves up to meet the shortage of the graphite in the market.
Now, with the current bumps in the U.S. EV acceptance in the market going on, and you're being a publicly traded company or working through a SPAC and having a public end to your company, how is that impacting you? Are investors looking short term for you? Are they looking quarter over quarter, or is there some sort of longer term view for you? Is the market being kind and understanding that there's going to be demand no matter what?
Yeah, I think electric vehicles industry is in terms of long term uh, being the first I mean the most polluted, statistics around the world, and every country, including Europe, North America, and South Asia, try to work towards net zero. I think electric vehicles transportation are really the key and are very important for the world and for our next generations. And we are just complete our transaction to complete the dispatch, going to the IPO on March 15. And of course, now we are trading right now. And talking about investors, we are hoping to secure more long-term investors, strategy investors to join the company. Of course, looking at the long term, definitely the industry is growing. Graphite industry is growing. The graphene is growing. Not just electrical vehicles applications in terms of graphene, also widely used in the semiconductors as well, steel industries. So basically, the application for graphene is so wide. And in terms of future trends of the whole markets, I think Graphjet stand a very confident it will be a long-term supply. And of course, we're talking to a few long-term investors, to be part of the team, to part of the investors in Graphjet. Looking at we're going to scale ourselves up as much as we can to fit the shortage of graphite in the industry. And we're talking about a few million tons of graphite shortage in the industry. So that's our aim.
And I guess the thing I don't understand is the palm oil business is how much supply of raw material do you have, and how big can you grow with what exists today from the palm kernel shells?
Sure. Basically, every year Malaysia do have 5 million tons of palm kernel shell waste in Malaysia. We're talking about just Malaysia, 5 million tons, and in terms of efficiency of our manufacturing process, we're talking about 3-to-1 ratio conversion, which is 3 ton of palm kernel shell waste, I can produce 1 ton of graphite. So if you're talking about 5 million ton of Malaysia, palm kernel shell waste able to produce, and we are running like 1.5, 1.7, 1.8 million tons of graphite. But this really takes such a long journey for Graphjets in terms of mentally, the team competency, of course, the investor supports and the financial institution, to work with us in the long terms to hit our long term goal on this part.
How much energy does it take to do your process? What is the process? Maybe we can kind of go a little bit through what you're able to talk about, and then what kind of energy does it take to transform this?
We're talking about 30 to 40 megawatts. Maximum, we will have a reserve for another 10 megawatts. We're talking about 50 megawatts for the whole manufacturing process. So definitely energy efficiency wise is a very upkeep and well upkeep. And of course, we're talking to some renewable players to try to neutralize our carbon emission by taking in more renewable energy in our whole manufacturing process as well. If we could lower down our 2.9 carbon emission to 1 kilogram to every 1 kilogram of production of graphite, that would be even great. That's the current goal that we're focusing on. Of course, we're putting ourselves high hope that we could able to neutralize the whole carbon emission with the whole manufacturing process improvement.
And then I guess the question I have, and maybe it has to do with gigaplants announced or whatever, but why Nevada?
Nevada's, how we started to explore in Nevada is because of the federal governments that give us some of the selections in Nevada, and we eventually found that Nevada there's quite a numbers of battery automakers (OEMs) situated in Nevada, and we even thought that Nevada would be one of the strategies location for us to be in there, together, much more nearer as compared to our supply chain, the whole customers. So that's what we thought to be in Nevada, and it's a business friendly location as well in terms of commercial wise.
So the amount of material you're importing, would it then go into like Long Beach and then come up by rail to Nevada, or how would your material get to Nevada?
Yeah, we're still working on that part on in terms of transportation wise, logistically, and in terms of metrics. The team are still moving on in discussion with the federal governments because the Nevada is so big. We are thinking about whether stick to an Indian Spring or we're going to a northern Nevada.
Awesome. So I guess what are some of the challenges with the acceptance of your technology? What are some of the hurdles that you've had to come overcome with folks wanting to take your graphite or getting your introduced into the battery ecosystem?
Yeah, I think in terms of awareness of the companies are pretty new. The companies are from Malaysia, and we are pretty new on IPO on the NASDAQ. We're gonna build ourselves up in terms of awareness and image, reputation in industries. This is one of the challenge, and the second challenge is that going through the qualification process for all the OEM automakers, EVs, any industries, especially materials like graphite, material like graphene. There's a lot of testing going on, a lot of verification going on. The qualification internally is going on. I think that really takes up a lot of time for us to secure and finalize the offtakes agreements. And of course, in terms of offtake with some of the potential MNC or OEM automakers, is kind of really a big challenge for us because they want us to be like, oh, can you just suppliers, or furnishers a number of big numbers of graphite like next month or next year, and to build a manufacturing plant to really cope with that supply chain, it will take maybe 2 years or 3 years because we're talking about 50,000, 100,000 ton or 500,000 ton or 60,000 ton every year. And our mid-sized plant in Malaysia, we're only producing 3,000 tons every year. And we are considered one of the biggest outside China, running in production with 3,000 tons graphite production every year. And if you're looking at a Nevada facility, we're talking about 20 acres of land. We are focusing on a 10,000 tons graphite production every year. So if customer come to us say that, oh, hey, Graphjet, can you supply me like 50,000 ton next year? I say we couldn't do it. So the problem is that how are we going to scale up as fast as we can? And given the timeline, the offtake, the urgency of the market, and of course, given us the capital's funding side of a challenge that we need to secure and to be stabilized in terms of the whole operation. That's one of the big challenge.
So is this different than, let's say, a PPA where I buy energy ahead of time, since graphite is kind of more, is it just more of a commodity and people are only willing to buy what's available today? Or are people investing much like you'd buy a PPA in future production and helping you put a facility in to get that graphite?
But yeah, I think at the moment we didn't even consider about the PPAs into the whole business model wise. But to scale ourselves up with joint ventures, some of the partners globally, and of course being on the NASDAQ platform as a public company right now, and we're also focusing to raise as additional fund from our investors to really scale ourselves up. I think that's the best
Yeah.
way
So
forward
so
as
what I'm
for now.
hearing is you need to build the facilities, you need to manufacture it, so you can't basically pre-sell the capacity and so you're partnering and building the material up, but there isn't a market to pre-sell it.
Yep, even I could able to pre-sell it, The problem is we didn't know that the timing, how fast we can scale ourselves up. Let's say some customers say that, oh, I wanted you to supply me 50,000 tons per year, and 50,000 would take me 4 years to build, and the customer say, oh, it's too long for them. They might as well go back to China, might as well go back to somebody else. But or maybe just delay the manufacturing plant process. So I think it's not really a big challenge for us, but it's some kind of good opportunity for us. It depends on how we look at it, and what's the expectation of the customers. That's the most important thing, part. And we mostly delivered what we promised, and we don't want to give out any empty promise. We're gonna make it for you, by when and by where. I think it's not ethical for me, for the company itself.
A recent development in the news is the Biden administration included a 2-year exclusion on carbon for the IRA in the US. Is this mean that there's going to be kind of a space race or a race equivalent to get locally sourced carbon? Is that why the exclusion? Because we just can't meet the demand today?
Yeah, you know, no problem. Basically, this decision come out from Biden's. I'm not sure whether it's a political move related thing, but I think I'm not at the right position to comment on that. But in terms of business industry wide in graphite, definitely for us we are doing good because we produce our own graphite. We have our own feedstock. We don't rely on any third party or partners to really give us the feedstock, or maybe run the production for us in Malaysia. That's the best thing about it. And a lot of graphite producer in North America, the so-called graphite producer, or even in some other country, um, it may be some threat for them because they probably don't really produce their own graphite, and they probably get source from at China, or maybe in China, to trade and repackage and resell to any automakers in the industry. So for them are a very big challenge. For us, I think we are a very good opportunity. But I think Biden has not opened his eyes too much, focusing because Graphjet is basically in North America, and we are here to be in North America to supply to all the OEM, to contribute to the supply chain. Why you want to exempt the graphite from the IRA. I just don't understand. So it may be some other intention. Yeah, I'm not too sure. But for us, basically overall, in terms of graphite, is why is we are good.
It doesn't impact you that much. And then
No, not
what
that.
about recycling a graphite and batteries? So as the EV business grows, we're going to have quite a few batteries to recycle. We've talked to a number of recyclers or planned recyclers on the podcast in the past. Is it reclaimed quite a bit? Is the anode technology able to be reclaimed and put back into the cycle then once these batteries have been used?
Mm, from my perspective is that if you recycle something, the purity and the consistency of the battery materials or the raw materials is definitely not there in terms of quality wise. You may recycle up to 70%, 80%, but if you're able to source from something like from Graphjet what is currently producing, and even consistent and better quality, and you don't need to recycle it, and it's at a better cost. And why do we need to recycle the existing raw materials, the batteries and anode? Because the cost definitely will be higher. That's a better option here from Graphjet. The question for the OEM battery maker is that why do we need to get something from a recycled company? Why not we just get something brand new from Graphjet? Just produced purely from waste, and it's a
But I
brand
guess what
new
I
and
don't
not material.
understand with your response is at the end of the day, it's still the same components. It's graphite. It doesn't matter how I got it, right? I mean, you happen to come about it from palm kernels, but at the end of the day, if I'm recycling it, am I not also making just graphite? And maybe I don't understand something here.
Okay, sure. Let me clarify this. There's the different grades of graphite in the industries. There is A grade, B grade, C grade. I would say different sizes, different particles, different nanomaterials, or different sizes of the graphite. Different sizes, different material, different quality of graphite make different kind of battery. And if you talk about you're using a low tier graphite, you're only able to use in motorbikes, electric bike. That's all. You can't go into electrical vehicles, truck, cars. But you want to go to cars levels on a battery anode material, you need a top-notch quality, consistency, and the quality has to be secure. Otherwise, there's a lot of safety issue, inconsistent. Even a phone, could explode. You talk about small battery, and if you're getting on something on some truck or some car with an inconsistent battery, materials, you are having a risk of, you know what I mean.
Right. So you're saying there's different qualities. One thing when you were talking about that that also came to mind. So I take at face value that you're putting in the palm kernels. What other materials go into the process? What other raw materials do you need to create your graphite?
Basically, from in terms of feedstock, it's just palm kernel shell. And of course, during the whole process, we will have our own catalyst, our own additive. Is part of our sole proprietary technology invention to make our sort of graphite. But basically, the main contribution is purely because of the palm kernel shell.
And now with your imminent plant opening or your production locally, um, how is that coming? As you said, it's just around the corner. I mean, the date you gave is very, very close.
Yep,
Um,
yep.
Tell me what to expect. When are we expecting things to roll, and what are the first users going to be of your graphite coming out of the plant?
Sure. Basically, we are very excited, and this is one of the mid-size manufacturing facility going to be launched end of June this year in Malaysia, and it's huge, and everyone is very excited, and even our customers. I don't name it, but one of the one that we have disclosed is Toyota in Japan. They are also very excited. They're going to visit us to join us for the grand opening in Malaysia, and this is, I mean, this is very exciting, and we thought that this is another milestone of our company's achievement, and you also will open the worlds, to get to know Graphjet internationally, globally.
Is the feedstock locked to the palm kernel, or are there other biomasses that you could use to replicate this in other markets?
All right. During the whole research and innovation process, before the IPO, we spent a lot of time in getting some other biomass such as rice husk, cornstarch, rubbles, rubbish, and there's many even coconut shell that we use it to recycle, including palm kernel shell, of course. Eventually, we found out that palm kernel shell is much more consistent. That's the first place, and a very high content of carbon. That's the second one, and the third one is because of the feedstock. Is Malaysia is the second largest of palm oil, so feedstock is not something that we don't need to worry about, and the cost of feedstock is really low compared to some other producer in China using petrol coal or coal. We're talking about maybe 10 times more expensive. Yeah, I think that's the advantage of we are using palm kernel shell in much more stables, and consistency is the most important part is consistency.
Thank you again, Aiden. It's been a pleasure having you on the program. We look forward to following you, seeing what happens with your NASDAQ, your stock, and the growth of your solution here in North America.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much.
Insiders, thanks for listening to another episode of the Insider's Guide to Energy. It's been fun bringing this episode to you. If you enjoy the content we bring and you want to continue hearing this content, there's one favor I have to ask of you, and it's the biggest thing and biggest compliment you can make for the entire team of 12 of us that bring you this show. It's to hit the like button or to add a comment. That lets others know that the show has quality, and it also helps us attract new guests for the future episodes. So please take a second and hit the like button. It is greatly appreciated. And we'll see you again next time on the Insider's Guide to Energy podcast. Bye for now.